Hello, and I'm going to read from. I'm going to thank you for joining my American history notes. Sorry about the hiccup there. Um, this is where I'm going to discuss the conclusions I've drawn from studying American history. You may not agree with some of my conclusions. You may not agree with any of my conclusions. But you need to know about these things I talk about, and even more to be conversant in American history, be able to put current events in the proper context and understand where we came from. Um, and I say we, all of us in this country. So let's begin. Um, News of the act prohibiting all trade and commerce with the 13 colonies inspired newcomer Thomas Paine's pamphlet Common Sense to further encourage the colonies to independence, calling George III a brutal tyrant, won over George Washington, who had been toasting the king nightly at his officers' mess. With Falmouth, Portland, Maine destroyed by the Royal Navy, and Norfolk, Virginia burnt by retreating patriots, and a force of patriots routing the royal governor of North Carolina's 1,600 Scots Highlanders at Moores Creek Bridge near Wilmington because Lord Cornwallis refused to help and instead sent his forces to Charleston, South Carolina, leaving the loyal North Carolina forces to be beaten. And South Carolinians building Fort Moultrie and beating off Cornwallis's fleet on June 28th. And after a fleet of Continental Navy and 7 small converted merchant vessels captured Nassau, Bahamas, and brought home a huge store of munitions for George Washington, and the Virginia Assembly meeting at Williamsburg on May 15 outraged the king was sending outraged that the king was sending German mercenaries to fight his own subjects. Then the call went out to declare independence. The Virginia Assembly had committee formed under George Mason, and a Declaration of Rights and a plan of government was to be drawn up. On excuse me, on June 12, 1776, the convention adopted the Virginia Bill of Rights and adopted a constitution for an independent Commonwealth of Virginia. In the Continental Congress, Richard Henry Lee spoke that the United Colonies should be independent states, forming a confederation to obtain freedom from Great Britain. On June 11th, Congress appointed a committee of 5 to prepare a Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Roger Sherman, and Robert Livingston. Part of Jefferson's original draft was changed partly to delete a tirade against the king for disallowing the Virginia's Assembly declaration against the slave trade due to South Carolina and Rhode Island. I previously noted that the slave trade was a huge economic factor in Rhode Island. Objecting to it, the Reverend John Witherspoon of Princeton demanded that a condemnation of Scots fighting for Britain be deleted, according to Morrison. Jefferson, according to the historians I studied, did not view blacks as men in the same sense he did his fellow white citizens, but his statements would later come back to haunt those who agreed with him. Without getting into the debate and the controversy over the writing of the Declaration, one of the most revolutionary documents ever penned, and one that spelled misfortune, disaster, and death for many of the signers, allowing you to pursue this during independent study. Here, you can find the body of the Declaration of the Independence on the internet, free. So you should go look it up. It starts when, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another. It's very important, and it's a very important uh, in context for all our history. And but there are 56 signatures on the Declaration, and you want to look at all those men. You might even want to look at biographies of those men. Very interesting. But the principle of independence was adopted on July 2nd, and the Declaration itself on July 4th, with printed copies sent to the former colonies, now states, and to the Army. It was read from the balcony of Independence Hall on July 8th. So we're going to stop there, and we're going to continue with the American Revolution next time. And I thank you for listening. I hope that I hope that you'll pull up the Declaration of Independence and read it. It's very important, part of our history. It's essential that you have an understanding of it. There's some really good books. One of them, American Scripture, about the Declaration of Independence. So just thank you for watching. Have a good day.